Okay, so today I want to be looking at a guitarist who I first heard a long time ago and has been a massive influence on me and thousands of other guitar players. And that is The Edge. Now, The Edge is probably the first guitarist that I can really remember really like falling in love with the sound of them. And that was the Achtung Baby album that I was listening to in the early 90s. But what we're going to be looking at today is the Joshua Tree album, which came out in late 80s, 1987 I think. And we're going to be looking at how he used delay and rhythm and some cool chord voicings to make some unbelievably unforgettable guitar tones. So let's see how close we can get to The Edge. Okay, so what have we got here? I have my Fender Stratocaster. I'm playing straight into a Boss Nextone amplifier, which I've got set up to sound a bit like a Vox, because The Edge is a big user and a big fan of Vox amps. Delay is an important part of the sound. The Edge used a TC Electronic 2290 rack delay in a lot of Joshua Tree. I don't have one of those, but the Boss Nextone has a beautiful model of a Roland SDE 3000 in there, so that's what I'm using, and it sounds pretty close. Sounds pretty good. Cool, so let's have a look at an example based on Streets Have No Name. Let's break that down. So the example I used there has two guitar parts in it. And this is a big part of The Edge's playing, and particularly on the Joshua Tree, is this layered approach to music, bringing in different parts which by themselves are quite nice, but when you add them together with the other guitar parts and then what the bass is doing is really complementary and gives this kind of soundscape which is just gorgeous to listen to. It's really clever. Okay, it's in the key of C and I'm playing 1. So the C, I'm playing the relative minor, the A minor, and then I'm playing the G and the F. Very basic and fundamental chords. Not a lot really happening there from a chord structure, but it's a very solid chord structure. And again, that's something that you'll hear a lot with U2s playing, particularly on the Joshua Tree. They're just foundation, strong chord settings, which then the band can build upon quite easily by adding in just little notes here and there, and to create really complex and really nice harmonies. But the actual foundation of the song is very strong and very solid. So that first part on the guitar is playing a C chord, which then goes to like a C suspended fourth. Now a suspended fourth is a big thing which The Edge does a lot, and you'll hear it all over, well, his playing, but it's all over the Joshua Tree. So with the C, we have the C major, the C suspended fourth, already that kind of sounds like U2, okay? So he's just playing a C chord up in the 8th fret, just that general bar position. Interesting when you see him play this live, because he's only playing the bottom 4 strings, okay? Mainly the bottom 3, but his thumb pokes out the bottom of the neck. You see that? For me, I'm always the thumb over the top guy. Yeah, his thumb is poking down the bottom. I don't know why that is. It could be because he plays this rhythm live sometimes for a very long time. And maybe he just finds that easier. But yeah, give it a go. It's quite interesting. And that just repeats over and over again throughout the whole song. So this C suspended fourth arpeggio, because of this very sort of basic and foundation of chord structure they've got, the 1 relative minor, the 5 and the 4, this is going to work over the whole thing. So Edge can just play this over the entire song, and it's gonna sound fine, it's gonna sound cool. So as the other chords come in, this is gonna be picking out different notes within those chords, but they're always gonna be in key, they're always gonna be in scale. And it gives this kind of idea that the Edge has about kind of pedal playing. So when I say pedal playing, I mean like a pedal note. So traditionally a pedal note would be a lower bass note in music, and then the higher notes would change. And they would have some kind of relative pitch towards the lower note. But with the Edge, he does things a little bit different. He keeps higher register notes repeating, going round and round, and it's the bass notes that change. But you'll hear that a lot in his playing. He'll just keep this kind of high little arpeggiated piece going. The bass note underneath changes, and it creates some very beautiful chords. You'll also notice something that the Edge does, and you can hear it as well, and it's to do with the guitar pick, okay? He uses picks which have a bit of grip on the side of them, and he turns the pick around so that the grip gives some kind of grating noise against the string. If I do that just with the regular flat side of the pick, the grippy edge. So it does have a little bit of grating. These are Herco picks and they are quite gripped at the edge, but it sounds a little bit harsh when I try it, so I would maybe need to find some different picks. So experiment if you really want to get that Edge sound into finding picks that have a bit of grip on them and the ones that sound pretty good. So the second guitar part is mainly based around the 5th fret, so the C shape in there. So if you know your caged system, okay, you've got your C, you've got your A minor, brings in his C sus2, you can bring in an F and a G. You can catch the high C to kind of get a bit of niceness in there. So it's got lots of movement on the guitar, lots of rhythm, and he's hitting out the bass strings to kind of get that kind of nice fatness, and then sort of tickling the kind of treble strings. Stuff like that. It can sound a little bit messy, but with the band it can sound really, really cool. He manages to create some space in what he's doing by kind of leaving delayed notes to ring out, and that's in contrast to the arpeggiated piece, which is just kind of continuously going in the background. So you put those two together and you get something pretty cool. So if you listen carefully to this track, you might notice that the guitar comes in actually in a different time or a different feel. It comes in with a 6/8 feel. Which is really interesting. So the Edge plays 6/8 with that little arpeggiated piece, but the band is 4/4, and there's this bit where they kind of merge and they come together, and the Edge has to adjust the time to make it fit so it starts in again with the 4/4. So it's this idea of almost like a rubato time feel. Okay, rubato is Italian, I think, for robbed time, where you are stealing parts of like the next bar to put into your bar, or you are kind of taking bits out of your bar to put into the next. It's this very free time feel anyway, and it's pretty cool. So he's still playing the same stuff, but he's kind of just having to cram it or speed bits of it up or slow bits of it down to get back in time for the beat. And you'll hear this brilliantly at the beginning of The Streets Have No Name. Interestingly, when I was recording that piece, I did what you two do when they play live, and that is Larry Mullen Jr., the drummer. He taps out 6/8 on the drums just for the edge. The band start coming in 4/4, the drums move to 4/4, and then Edge fixes it in. On the record, you don't hear that. You don't hear that tapping. You only hear that live. So I took it out for the example piece, but here's what it sounds like if you wanted to perhaps play the song live. Here's something that your drummer could do. Also, you'll notice that a lot of the tracks on the album have this kind of 16th note thing coming from the guitar. The drummer doesn't use the hi-hat, or the hi-hat is turned really, really low in the mix, so it doesn't clash. You don't want that tick, 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 tick on a hi-hat when you've also kind of got on a guitar. It would sound too much of a clash. So you have this beautiful element of space where the guitar is doing things that the drums are doing. It's just excellent. Can't really talk about the Edge without talking about delay, can we? So he's famous for using this dotted 8 thing. The dotted 8 really is there to try and have this idea of playing 3s over 4s. So you're really wanting this galloping feel. It creates a swing feel, okay? If you don't have like a tap tempo thing on your delay pedal, just try and play one note on the guitar on the beat, so the 1, 2, 3, 4, and adjust that repeat till it comes in till you're getting that galloping sound. It's a nice thing to not always rely on tap tempo and to go by what sounds right for you. You know, just to get it in that pocket, that dotted 8 or somewhere around there. So the dotted 8 just means it's slightly later than the and. So you get 1 and 2 and. So that and is a bit later, which gives you that 1 to 2 to 3 to 4. You can hear it on his notes. Okay, so let's look at another track based around I still haven't found what I'm looking for. For this example, I'm playing in the key of B and it's using a 1-4-5 chord structure. You two are a rock and roll band at heart, so playing 1-4-5 seems very natural. So the first part in this track is very, very interesting. So we're going to return to this idea of this kind of pedal note idea where the Edge picks out some high strings, just keeps them going, and then the bass underneath changes to create different chords and different harmonies, but that high part which the Edge does doesn't change. So in the example, I'm basing this around these 3 notes. So in the key of B, this is B, F sharp, and B flat. So that creates like a B major 7 with no third. It sounds really nice. Sounds very U2. But when the song moves to the 4 chord, it brings in the E, that introduces a different chord, and it becomes like an E sus2 with a flat 5. So it's a very mysterious sounding chord. So if we look at those 2 chords just by themselves, we have the B, so that's the root, the 5, and the major 7. But then when the E comes in, we have this. This E sus2, flat 5, and a natural 5. So it's very strange sounding. And see, all this is achieved by this pedal note. So the edges it's the note underneath that changes, which then creates a new harmony. It's really, really clever. And again, he's spinning that pick round. So the second guitar is playing like a combination. It's using more of the guitar. So it's adding in these much larger chord shapes, which allow the edge to move between the bass strings, the kind of middle strings, and a bit of the treble. So we can get this very rhythmic drum feel. Which is much more interesting to play and allows him to create much more sort of dynamic rhythms that are in contrast to the rather static. So what am I doing here? All I'm really doing is stacking power chords on top of each other. So we have the B, we have the F sharp, and then the B, the F sharp, and the B flat from that arpeggiated part. Just adding a B power chord on top of that. And when it comes to the E, just playing an E bass note, the E on the 7th fret there, and then it's back to that. So that part never changes. Just adding a B power chord on top, and then an E with an E on the fretted E and an open E as well. Now when it comes to the 5 chord on this, I don't know if Edge does this, but this is what I'm doing. I'm taking a leaf from sort of Jimi Hendrix's book. I'm playing like a super power chord. But I mean a super power chord. You play any power chord starting with its root on the 5th string, and then you also come in and use the bass note and add in the octave below on the G string. You'll get like a super power chord. So the notes of that are the 5, the root, the 5, and then the octave. They're a great way to get some power in your playing, and with the Edge being the only guitarist in the band, sometimes to create a fuller sound, I can imagine that he would use some of these chords sometimes. There's a third part to this song, and again, this uses the caged system. The Edge is using very simple chord voicings, but just using them very, very effectively. And again, it's that A shape from the caged, okay? So this is played in the 4th fret and it's a B. He can add in the suspended 4th. There's the E. The F sharp. The E. And he plays these as just beautiful pads. Just adds this kind of nice chimey pad underneath it all. And again, put all those 3 guitar parts together and you've got something rather special. So let's look at something more of a solo guitar piece. The Edge is a phenomenal guitarist when just playing by himself because of his use of delay, his use of rhythm, this idea of trying to play 3s over 4s, trying to get this nice triplet feel. The ability he has to try and emulate a drum on the guitar by alternating between bass strings, middle and high strings means he can create a huge amount of rhythm, and just by using one electric guitar and a delay pedal, he can really kind of represent the whole band when he's playing. Okay, now I had a lot of fun making that video because I am a massive U2 fan and a massive Edge fan. But what do you think? Did I come quite close to finding some of the tones and some of the sounds that he is using there? Is the Edge a big influence on you? Do you find that his music is just amazing as well? His use of delay, his use of rhythm, this layered approach, and this very simplistic but highly effective sort of chord voicings that he does. So the sounds on Joshua Tree are very different from the sounds of things that came before. So if you listen to the album War, for example, that's using analog delays, the Deluxe Memory Man. And they're not as rhythmic as the stuff he's doing on Joshua Tree. So he's using that delay pedal to make more of a kind of ambient wash and a bit more of a soundscape which he's pushing through his amplifier, whereas with what he's doing on Joshua Tree with using digital delays, he's using it more for a rhythmic effect but also creates that larger kind of ambient, but it's much cleaner than the stuff that he was doing on War. I think at some point in the future I'm probably going to do a similar video like this but looking at War, because the use of delay on that for a different reason is utterly phenomenal. And if I'm feeling brave, I'm probably going to look at Achtung Baby as well, but there's a lot more going on in Achtung Baby. So let me know if you enjoyed this, if you'd be interested in me doing some other guitarists or some other albums, and I'll see what I can do. But yeah, have fun and I shall see you soon.